What's up, guys? What we're about to do is we're about to start the install of the dry sump oiling system on my 98 Dodge Viper. So that's really exciting. It's a huge project. It's way bigger than I ever anticipated, but it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot. The car is going to be better than ever. It's going to be more reliable than ever, hopefully. Hopefully a little bit faster, but more importantly, hopefully that engine is protected a little bit more. But before we dive into the video of how I got to this point and how we did all the work and what were the steps, first off, I just want to start by saying it's not a DIY video. It's not a, or I shouldn't say a DIY video. It's not a step-by-step video of how to do this. This is just some of the recording of what I've done, which there's hours of footage, but there's countless more that I didn't tape. I only taped what I could. So there's a lot more to it, but hopefully I'll try and address all the major issues I had. Hopefully, if some of you are undertaking this project, that it can help you through some of those obstacles. At the end, I'll try and list all the parts that I used that I think you'll need, a lot of the obstacles that I encountered, steps that I think they should be taken in order, and then yeah, so again, this is not a detailed step-by-step video for you guys to follow. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not an expert by any means. This is just me in my car, in my single car garage, trying to do this install. So feel free to give these videos likes and subscribe if you want to. I've had a couple different YouTube pages, but for various reasons, these will be the first videos on this YouTube page. So that's exciting. But before we dive into the breakdown and everything like that, let's first cover why we're doing this.
Alright guys, so a lot of you are probably wondering why I went down this path, why I'm doing a dry sump in the first place, what are the pros and cons, just what got you to this path. So I figured I should explain that a little bit more so that you guys can kind of know the reasoning behind it. I'll play a clip for you in a second, but the primary reason that I decided to dry sump was what I wanted to put on my car was because when me and my dad went to Coda in the fall of 2022, in the sweeping turns in some of the hard braking zones, I noticed a real drop in oil pressure, and it was pretty alarming. We were trying to play with our oil fill level throughout the day to try and mitigate it, but it was still something we were constantly looking at, and it was just really concerning. So it was at that point where I kind of thought some version of the solution needed to be changing my oiling system. And so for a while I looked into AccuSumps, which is just like basically a little pressurized cylinder that contains a certain amount of oil, and it deploys it whenever your oil pressure drops below a certain point. After reading about it for a while, I decided that wasn't really what I wanted to do because I don't know that I really see it as a full fix. I feel like it's more of a band-aid solution. I'm not knocking people who have AccuSumps. I just didn't know that it was really the path I wanted to take. So I wanted to do a full-on dry sump. And so the pros of doing a dry sump are you have an external oil pump now that has a much higher capacity, something that you can adjust your spring tension by you can replace springs to get different pressures out of your pump, outputs out of your pump. So I like that it's adjustable. I like that it's sucking oil through the motor and it's not just flowing downward throughout the block. I like that it pulls a vacuum on the engine, so you will get a little bit of a power increase. You get more efficiency out of your motor, but really I'm just looking for a lot better oil supply. And so what that'll do is, since your oil tank is a large vertical cylinder, you're much less prone to sloshing inside of your oil pump when you make left and right hand turns. So whenever you have a longer sustained curve or turn that you're making, the oil is subject to the G-forces that your car is undergoing, so it'll slosh to the side of the pan, and it won't be in your pickup any longer. So right now, I'll go ahead and cut to a visual of the oil pan, and I'll show you where the oil pickup is and where the oil is actually going when you go through these hard turns. And so I'll show you what that looks like.
All right, guys. So here is your stock oil pan. As you can see, it's got some depth to it because it's used for storing oil as well as supplying it. Well, the pump does the supplying, but this is where the supply comes from. So as you can see, I had these little trap doors here, or swinging gates that would screw in right here. And what they would do is, this is the front of the engine, or this would be the front of the car, front of the engine. This would be the rear. And so under hard braking, this swinging trap door stays closed and presses up against the bottom of the pan. However, when you're accelerating, the swinging door opens and allows oil to flow from here back to this center section, because in here is where the oil pickup is. You'll see this little screen down here at the bottom. If I turn it, maybe you can see a little better. So yeah, now you should be able to see the pickup screen, which is pumped through this little orifice that's cast into the bottom of the pan. Now, the other side is when you're accelerating, this this swinging door doesn't go backwards, it only goes forwards. So when you're under hard acceleration, this thing can't go backwards, so oil is naturally wanting to flow towards the back of the engine. Well, this swinging door kind of keeps it towards the center of the pickup. However, you don't really have a way to keep oil from sloshing to the side of the motor. So when you make a hard right-hand turn, all your oil is shifting like this to the side of the pan. So you're no longer letting it sit in the pickup and getting sucked up by the oil pump. This is obviously a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's what's going on. So then the opposite side is you make a strong left-hand turn, all your oil goes to that side of the motor and it sloshes. So that's exactly what's happening with your oil pan. Now, with a dry sump pan, you see it is much more shallow. It's not storing oil in here. So it's not really susceptible to the same G-forces that a regular oil pan under a wet sump system does.
Okay, so now you've seen what the differences are between the two pans, the two oiling system setups. The large stock cast pan is used for storing oil and then supplying it to the oil pump, which is going to feed it to the rest of the engine. The dry sump pan is very shallow. It's maybe like an inch deep. It's very shallow. It's not used for storing oil. It's used for sucking oil through the pump. It's called what's scavenging. The pump is scavenging oil through the motor. And so that pan isn't used for storing oil. It's just used for catching it and giving it to the pump. The oil is stored elsewhere in a large vertical reservoir, which isn't subject to as many G-forces laterally. So it kind of cures the problem of lateral G-forces for oil supply. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a video of the car at Coda, and you'll notice as I go down the main straight and I enter the hard braking zone, you'll see a drop in oil pressure, but then really after we make the left to go towards, I think, turn 13 and then 14 and 15, it's a little bit of a sweeper there, and you'll notice a real heavy drop in oil pressure. It goes from like 40-ish oil pressure down to below 20, which is really bad for a car that has that's got RPMs. It's not idling. So yeah, you'll see it, and I'll try and zoom in on the gauges. It'll be a little bit blurry, but it should show you the pressure drop as the car's going through turns. Alright, for a second, please excuse my dog. She loves squeaking this fat little pig that makes the greatest noises in the world, courtesy of my mom. But anyways, thanks for sticking around, watching the videos on why I'm switching to this dry sump. I just wanted to maybe articulate it to those of you who may not be gearheads, who may not have heard of dry sump oiling systems before, and may just not be familiar with that at all. So this video is really just an intro video to explain it to the general public. Obviously, if you're considering a dry sump install or you're using this as a install video, God help you. But if you are, you can probably skip to the next video where we'll start the breakdown. We'll start showing the process of getting everything torn down to the point where we can start the install. This will probably be a multi-part video series, as it was just so much to film all of this stuff. I didn't even film the majority of it, but as I said earlier, but it still was it just slows you down so much, and it's hard to do that when you only have two hands, and sometimes occasionally when you have someone helping you. But thanks for tuning in, and stay tuned for part 2 where you can start seeing the teardown process. Thanks.